Hey, Tom, can you hear me?
I can.
I'm gonna turn this screen around so I won't be on the screen.
I think I'll enjoy listening.
It's still not working like it's supposed to.
Yeah, I don't have the big camera.
Can you see them?
I can, yes.
Okay.
Are they able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
All right, very good.
Town of Stokesdale Planning Board meeting, May 26th, 2020. I have dogs.
Ms. Martin, did you ever correct the minutes for Mark Nadell's address? It was supposed to be Wendy Gale versus Windy Gale.
That correction, we have the wrong.
No, it's the other way around. Wendy instead of Windy.
What?
His address, Windy Gale.
8211 Windy Gale.
Yeah, that's, it should be Wendy Gale.
It is Windy Gale.
Okay, then it's corrected then.
Well, I'm reading this is
This is
the issue. Here, and it should be no more than just about here. It's longer.
But it's, well, Verizon says it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all would stand, as you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is to review and adopt the agenda. Has everybody looked at the agenda? Is there any discussion? The chair will entertain a motion to approve it and adopt.
I'll make a motion that we approve and adopt the agenda.
Mr. Threat has made a motion to review, Review and adopt the agenda. Any second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Sumner seconds it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Approval of minutes. Any discussion? Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we
All right, Mr.
approve the
Green
minutes as written.
is making a motion to approve them as written. Will I have a second? Mr. Gentry seconds it. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passes.
Sorry, a little late on it.
Public hearing items. Rezoning case number 22-04-STPL-02908. Mr. Bass, would you present this to our planning board, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This property is located on the north side of US Highway 158, approximately 785 feet west of Athens Road intersection on Guilford County Tax Parcel 164054. The applicant for this request is the Hen Group LLC. The request is to rezone property from AG Agricultural to RS Single Family Residential. We provided a description of the zoning districts as it relates to their intended use. Just note that the RS-30, any subdivision in the RS-30 zoning district will require connection to the town municipal water system. The parcel is primarily in the mixed-use areas with apartments, highway businesses, and residential uses. There is an existing home on the site, which consists of 12.25 acres. I would note that this property is in the area of what was the proposed Highway 158 project. With regards to the land use plan, it is covered under the area in the Stokesdale land use plan that was adopted in 2007. The recommendation is for professional and manufacturing corridor. And this area is intended for growth of office space, light manufacturing services that is consistent with current uses. This corridor, it starts at the eastern edge of the town core and on US Highway 158 and follows in US 158 east up until US 158 and the US 220 intersection. With regards to consistency, the requested action is inconsistent with the recommendation of the land use plan because of what I mentioned, that the professional and manufactured corridor is primarily intended for offices and manufacturing type uses. Although it is inconsistent, the staff does recommend approval. Staff considered the requested action would be reasonable in the public interest because it is adjacent to residential uses in the area and it provides housing opportunities for citizens, and it is in an area that is served by the Stokesdale municipal water system. However, if the town does approve this request, because it is inconsistent with the Stokesdale land use plan, there will need to be a plan amendment to residential. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. To be clear, this parcel is to the west of existing Countryside Nursing Home,
Yes, sir.
which is a residential sort of facility?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any questions from the planning board for Mr. Bass?
The state's plan, that's all been changed at this point, right?
I believe there has been some alterations, there have been some changes, but the last information I had, it was gonna occur at near that intersection.
Are you saying
I
that
hadn't seen anything official about
the
that
road
change.
will go north of this area, or
Yeah,
will, as it is now, the road, the new road, 158 bypass, will be to the east of this parcel?
Yeah, based on the plans I've seen, it'll be to the east, and I believe it does encompass some of that parcel. If that is in, yeah, based on the last, information I saw. They will need to, will need to, account for that. But it would go through NCDOT for review, if that's what they wanna do, a residential, assuming they wanna do some type of subdivision. Because it's a straight rezoning, we really can't base it on any type of proposed development.
We can assume that they want to make little houses there because it is RS30.
Well, RS30 would allow, it does allow, single-family residential and major subdivisions. However, you must consider any use that can go into that area.
Would you enumerate, what are the things that could go into RS30, just for the sake of discussion?
Well, mainly it's single-family residential, modular homes. You can do some, institutional, some educational and institutional uses. I can give you the specific list.
I think it would be appropriate to
Yes.
list what are the things that could go into this as a public meeting.
In RS30, of course, you can do some forestry and agricultural type uses in the RS30 district. Recreation facilities, mostly, public, some institutional type uses. You can do a family care home, well, that's pretty much a single family. Major and minor subdivisions. Accessory uses, emergency shelters. You can do, some recreational type uses with special use permits. And basically schools and other institutional type uses. So basically residential, single-family residential and institutional type
Okay.
uses. Public.
Thank you. Any more discussion with the,
in RS30, I mean, that would be what, on average, 30,000 square foot lot?
Minimum 30,000 square foot yards.
Well, here you have in 1.3, did I read this right?
Houses per.
Where did I read
That will be the overall density generally, that's what it calculates out to. That's how it's spelled out in your ordinance.
An acre is
Yeah,
what?
so acre is about 43,000.
43,000, something like that?
Yeah.
Can you, sorry, was it me? Mr. Bass, can you expand on it says that last little line there in the nature of the request says the parcel is in the scenic corridor overlay district. Can you expand on that at all?
Yeah, the
So what that
county, most of the US 158 is a scenic corridor that has an overlay district that applies certain scenic aesthetic, standards
Okay.
to mostly residential, mostly non-residential development.
Okay. Can you give a practical example of what that means in terms of what would normally fall into a scenic corridor overlay? Like, I mean, is it a certain,
Well, within the scenic corridor, there are commercial signage, that's some of the requirements, restrictions on commercial signage that may be a little bit more restrictive
okay,
than what your sign ordinance might require in certain aesthetic fencing
Okay.
and screening, those type standards. That may be more than what's required in your
okay.
base district.
just as a hypothetical, because the scenic corridor restricts bare metal buildings, that means that somebody could not put a metal building up and live in it, right?
But it doesn't apply to residential, it doesn't apply to single-family residential, because
it
the
doesn't?
state statute really, it restricts that. You can't apply design standards to single-family residential homes. That's not allowed by statute.
No, okay. I was thinking somebody put up a shipping container house somewhere.
Yeah, it has to meet the state building code. but-
Okay. Some friends of mine are into this little home deal, building a house out of a shipping container. Okay. Any other questions from the board for Mr. Bass? I will open it up to the public. Any comments from the public to this rezoning request?
Okay, thank you. Good evening, board members. When we went into this, we had some, different thoughts of different things to put in there. And I've had many phone conversations, emails back and forth with Oliver, and he finally steered me in the right direction to get something that he thought could get approved. So it was submitted to the county, and it was reviewed by DOT, and their basically only comment that they gave back to us was that we had to put in a right turn lane to provide the access into the subdivision. So that is indeed our intent, to conform to whatever DOT requirements are as far as turn lanes, and to get that, in there such that we can get their approval on it. What they're planning on doing is definitely going to be a single-family residential development. It's going to be more of a tract type, setup, where they are actually going to build. They'll have 2 or 3 different models that they can select from. So it's going to be more affordable than these big huge houses you'll see out there. It's going to be more of a low key, which is a good good transition from the multifamily that it's adjacent to provide that. The density is, we're only 1.14 units per acre, so we're definitely under the 1.3 that's allowed. We're under that, so we are putting something in there that meets that requirement, and actually is a little bit better as far as the lower units per acre. Regarding the scenic corridor, once again, we'll do whatever we need to do to comply with those standards. The existing house that's on the parcel right now, we're going to keep that house that's there. So we're not going to be doing anything as far as that. So that's basically what you'll see there. And if we need to do any enhanced landscaping along the road, that's what we'll do in order to comply with the scenic corridor requirements. So that's kind of the background of what we're planning on doing, and I'm open. If you gentlemen have any questions that you'd like me to respond to, I'd be more than happy to do that.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Did the DOT ask for a left turn lane? You guys said a right turn lane, but a left turn lane would stop traffic.
It was discussed, and but it was not ever determined. Basically, when we go in and do the analysis on it, we'll determine whether or not we need to have that. It was brought up by DOT, but it was not, they didn't say it was absolutely going to be required. It was more something that we will have to determine and look into it as we get into our improvement plans.
Okay.
But
Hey.
they did require a right turn lane.
Yes, they did. And we have provided a site plan to Mr. Bass to review and them to review, and we did indeed include that right turn lane on our preliminary sketch plan.
Sir, if you can answer this, I'd like for you to answer if you can. What's the square footage of these homes going to be, roughly? I know they won't be exactly the same.
Yeah, they're going to be probably in the probably 1,800 to 2,500 square foot homes. There might be a couple that are bigger, but we have some of the lots are especially along the western property line, are kind of tight as far as the buildable space that we have on it by the time we take into the setbacks and septic issues on that. So they will be more, in the smaller range. They could perhaps on some of the cul-de-sac areas, maybe, go up to maybe 3,000 square feet, but it's, in general, that's the range that they're looking at. They don't actually have any models actually developed yet, but that's from the information that they've told me, that's kind of the square footage they're looking into.
Just clarify, we really cannot consider the square footage of the home in making your decisions. That's getting into the residential design standards.
And I know that, that's why I left it up to him to decide whether or not to answer it. But you do have a plan to connect to the city water system?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we, as part of the review process with the county, we actually supplied them a site plan, and we did indeed show that we would be connecting to the water system, in installing fire hydrants as needed for fire flow, and yes, so that will definitely be part of our plan.
Thanks, sir.
Any more questions? Is there anybody
Thank
else
you.
who'd like to speak about this? If you would, state your name and address, please, for the record.
My name's Charles Westbrook. I live at 7810 US Highway 158. Just a couple questions on such as the entrances and stuff like that. Everything I can get from DOT has the highway going directly behind my property, right along my fence line. So it's right at the property line adjacent to here. Traffic's a hazard now coming out of where I live. We've had 2 accidents right there. If they're putting in turn lanes, that kind of stuff, it would be nice to know, how it's going to affect our property. That's my concern. Putting houses back there, we moved to Stokesdale to be in the country and not in a neighborhood. So you can't stop the machine, we understand that, but it'd be nice to kind of be kept informed, and those are the questions I have. We did come up to Town Hall and request information to be emailed. Nothing was ever received, so that was
Who'd you talk to?
front office on election day. I didn't receive anything in the email. Oh, no problem. I mean, it's just, you understand where the residents are coming from. It's kind of unnerving when you move into the country and then now you're fixing to be in a neighborhood. Thank you.
Any other speakers wish to be heard? All right, discussion from the board. Any further discussion? The decision we have is recommend for or against to the town council. They're the actual decision makers. The chair will entertain a motion either way. And remember, in this motion, we need to put some reasoning of why for or against.
I'm going to move that we approve recommending this change, this zoning change, request number 22-04-STPL-02908, because it is in the public interest, and also it will be beneficial to add more houses to the town water system. Did I say enough?
I think so. What do you think? Enough.
They just want to make a recommendation whether or not you would recommend amending the land use plan to accommodate that.
Okay. I don't know if I can put that in the same sentence, but I would recommend that we, I'm sorry.
Amend the land use
Amend
plan.
the land use plan to accommodate this rezoning.
Good job. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Green has placed the motion. Mr. Sumner has second. Let's vote. Mr. Gentry.
Aye.
Mr. Sumner.
Aye.
Mr. Threat.
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. New business. Major subdivision case 22-04-STPL-02904. Mr. Bass, will you present this to the board, please?
Yes, and just to inform you that this item and the next item is pretty much in conjunction. They're related. The waiver must be approved before you consider the second item on the agenda with regard to the overall preliminary plat. Just so you're aware that they're gonna be related. Okay. If you approve the waiver, then you can consider the preliminary plat approval.
And for the board's benefit, this is our decision to approve or disapprove.
Correct. With regards to the waiver, this property is located at 8643 Oak Level Church Road, approximately 3,900 feet north of Oak Level Church Road and Belews Creek Road, Guilford County Tax Parcel 167235. The applicants are requesting a waiver from Section 5-13.3J, which establishes the maximum distance of a cul-de-sac at 800 feet. The requested waiver is to allow the cul-de-sac to extend 937 feet from the intersection of what is proposed Blossom Breeze Drive to the end of the cul-de-sac of Pink Mountain Drive, as shown on the plat. The planning board does have the authority to approve a waiver, and any appeals to the waiver must be made to the governing board. Section 5-12.2 states that the grounds for waiver must include one of three things: either for physical hardship, equal or better performance, or there was an unintentional error that resulted in a minor violation of the subdivision regulations. And you all do have authority to apply certain conditions that would secure that the standards of the purpose of the ordinance is satisfied. With regards to staff comments, this waiver request was submitted to the Technical Review Committee for a recommendation to the Planning Board. The TRC did vote to recommend approval of the request and to allow the extension of the cul-de-sac to up to 937 feet when measured from the intersection of Blossom Breeze Drive to the end of the cul-de-sac, which is as it is presented on the preliminary plat. And based on the physical, and it should be based on the physical hardship as described in the waiver request in the letter from the developer's engineer. And it relates to the shape of the track, topography, and the surrounding properties. And this property is on conditional zoning. It does have a conditional zoning attached to it. As you may recall, it was brought up for a rezoning earlier this year, or maybe late last year.
Mr. Bass, what were the conditions of the zoning? Do you remember? Do you have that?
I believe it should be, I don't know if you can read it on the plat. I thought it was. The condition is the density shall not exceed 1 dwelling unit per acre. The minimum lot size will be 30,000 square feet, and and it must connect to the Stokesdale water system.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any questions from the board for Mr. Bass? there's no questions, I'm going to open up to the public. Is there anybody in the public wish to speak on this waiver?
I will. I'm just going to hand out, these are full-size maps, so I'm assuming you'll have 11 by 17s.
That would be terrific.
You already have yours.
It's
Oh,
the
you
same,
already-
it's the same map
Oh, okay.
that you have.
Oh, okay. I didn't know y'all had full-size.
Okay, good.
Hello, my name is Ethan Creed of Hugh Creed Associates. I'm representing the engineering firm that is doing this project. My address is 304 South Tremont, Greensboro. So, as you said earlier, our request for this is based on topography hardships. Basically, the lay of the land suggests that this is where the cul-de-sac needs to be. But with the conditional uses being less than one dwelling unit per acre, we had done that because of the buffer on the slower side of, where there's a stream, to be able to use more open space to preserve that area, as well as just having a little bit more leeway. The difference between RS40 and RS30 is 150-foot road frontage to 100-foot road frontage. So that was the reason why we needed to get the RS30 to begin with. So to be able to build this subdivision on the land provided, but to be able to give them the less than one dwelling unit per acre, but get to that limit, we just requested that the cul-de-sac can, extend the extra 137 feet. If y'all have any questions, I'd, be glad to answer them, but it's a relatively straightforward request.
Well, I do have a question for you. In lots 11 to 16, they enter the buffer of the stream. Am I right there?
Yes, sir.
And it's a septic system. So what keeps septic overflow from going into the stream?
We won't know that until we get a septic evaluation. Septic is typically subsurface. So a septic system is failing if it does get into that waterway buffers. However, with these buffers, they have 20-foot non-disturbed, 30-foot disturbed repair. Most the setbacks for the septic system would not be within, would be where it was required within the buffer. There's nothing we can do about failing septic systems. People's toilets run. It's, it's more about the individual care of these systems. But however, we won't know whether we have the space or availability for the septic system until we're able to get the county out there and do, inspect it and actually get the improvement permits. But typically, subsurface septic system is supposed to stay subsurface. And the whole point is that you have the waste is treated before it hits the water table.
My point being is, in 30,000 square feet, there's not a whole lot of area for a repair field, plus a house and driveway and good stuff like that. Mr. Bass, when the TRC reviews this, do they think about repairs fields for septic systems?
Well, at this stage, they do consider that but they won't look at the septic systems. They won't look at the septic systems in the repair area until the preliminary plat is approved, and they get in to do that soil evaluation, site evaluation. But I'm sure that the design criteria for septic would account in the regulations would account for potential hazards into the buffer and into the stream.
I guess what I'm asking is, at some point, will somebody look at, say, for instance, lots 13 to 15 and say, no, those lots are too small because soil conditions are such that you don't have enough room to put a house in?
Yeah, generally the minimum, they have minimum standards in terms of lot sizes that's appropriate for septic. But then they would do an evaluation to determine where those suitable soils are and where they can locate them on the specific site. And it doesn't have to be in the rear, it could be in the front of the home as well.
What about the topography? I can't tell by looking at the map is it uphill to the road or downhill to the, from the road to the stream, is that downhill?
Do y'all only have one map with you? Because there's a grading plan, should be underneath it, that shows topography.
But if they do not approve some of these lots, what's the alternative? Do they, does this have to be redrawn? Or is that...
Yeah, it'd have to be redrawn if they want to continue with the subdivision.
Okay, so it don't move forward if it's not approved. It does not move forward as drawn.
Correct. If it's not, if they do not get environmental health to sign off on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Medlin.
Yes. Can you speak up, Tom? You're kind of low.
Sorry, see if this helps. I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Clayton, just for the record. There's a letter that was submitted dated May 17, 2022 on stationery by Hugh Creed and Associates, Inc., indicating it was written by Norris Z. Clayton. And I just would like for him to put in the record that that's his letter and that he's submitting that in support of his request for the waiver, along with the survey.
My name is Ethan Creed. Norris Clayton is our professional engineer of our company. I'm here representing Norris Z. Clayton at the moment. But that is his request and his letter.
Okay, and you're familiar with that letter and its contents?
Generally, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could you give him a copy, please?
Certainly.
I can give them a copy.
So many lots. Just something about the way they would develop in the I think it's the way it's got to go into this piece of property for future development.
I apologize, I can't see you. Are you reviewing it now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let me know when you've finished.
That's the next question.
While he's reviewing that,
Okey-doke.
Mr. Bass.
I'm ready for your question, sir.
Okay, great. So now that you've familiarized yourself with the contents of that letter, do you agree with those assertions? And that you still find those to be true?
Very much so, yes, sir.
And you're submitting those in support of your request, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And, Mr. Chairman, the reason I did that is just this particular proceeding is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Therefore, it is the presentation of evidence, and then you consider that evidence to support one of the three standards that Mr. Bass has presented that you're going to have to find. Either
Okay, thank you, Mr. Medlin.
Thank you.
Mr. Bass, I'm looking at the drawing and the agenda. The development says municipal water or community water system.
Right.
As I remember the rezoning, we said it was, or it was told to us that it would be on the town water system. A community water system is not the same.
Your ordinance says but your ordinance does override that. Your ordinance says the town municipal water system.
Okay, so the drawing is incorrect because it says community water system will be used. And also on the agenda. So what I'm trying to make clear is that it will be on the municipal water system.
It will be
Not a community water system.
not a community, by ordinance, it has to be on the town of Stokesdale water system.
Okay.
And you're aware of that, right? And
That's note 3 on the first page. Water, connect to Stokesdale water sewage, or to connect to Stokesdale water. Sewage will be on-site, off-site septic. That was one of the conditional zonings, but the preliminary, overall preliminary plan, which I think we're talking about the water extension now, and then we're gonna get to the preliminary plan.
Mr. Chair, I've got a question. In regards to the 800 feet versus 937 feet, are there plans, and has this been reviewed with the fire department as far as fire hydrants? Because I think that length has something to do with fire hose length and getting to the end of that road. Will there be additional fire hydrants?
There's a fire hydrant between lot 7 and 6 currently.
Yeah,
They have a 400-foot limit generally.
Okay.
yeah, when considering, this waiver, at the TRC, the fire marshal representative did state that 1,000 feet will be a cutoff in terms of what they consider to be a situation that would adversely impact fire protection.
Okay.
where does that one connect?
Okay, any other questions from the
I
board?
guess there's nothing there. is there?
Agreed.
No, that's not a lot. Okay. Okay. Yeah, of course, it's not numbered, so it's.
Thank you, Mr. Creed. Is there anybody
Thank you,
else who'd
Board.
like to speak on this particular subdivision? Nobody else speaking? Discussion with the board? No further discussion from the board. The chair will entertain a motion to approve this waiver.
I'll make a motion, Chairman. In the matter of major subdivision case 22-04 STPL-02904, the Oak Level subdivision waiver request. Make a motion that we approve it based on the physical hardship due to the shape of the topography from an engineering standpoint to meet the requirements for the RS-30's minimum lot distances or widths.
Mr. Threat has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Green seconds. Let's vote. Mr. Gentry.
Aye.
Mr. Sumner.
Aye.
Mr. Threat.
Aye.
Mr. Green.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Next piece of business. Major subdivision case 2204 STPL dash 02904 Oak Level Preliminary Plat. Oh, sorry, Oak Level Subdivision Preliminary Plat. Mr. Bass, would you please present this to the board?
Yes. now that you have approved the waiver, you can now consider this approval of the preliminary plat for Oak Level subdivision. The subdivision, this is a request for preliminary plat approval to allow 24 lots on approximately 30 acres, 29.7 to be exact. The zoning for this subdivision is CZRS 30 with the following conditions. There's gonna be a maximum density of 1 dwelling unit per acre with a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet. And the development must have municipal rather than community, town of Stokesdale water system. Staff recommended based on the comments from the technical review committee, conditional approval. The technical review committee did review this project on May 3rd. The letter and their comments is attached to the staff report. And those comments must be addressed for final approval. Staff, with conditional approval, that means that the final approval must go through staff review and approval. So it would go through watershed, environmental health, NCDOT would go through the review process with it, and so forth. With conditional approval, the applicant would need to revise the preliminary plat to address those comments that's stated in the TRC letter that was attached to this report.
Any questions of this for Mr. Bass?
Yes, I have, Mr. Bass, usually when we get these cases, they've already had that input. Why is this one different?
Usually when it goes to TRC, there's gonna always be some comments that has to be done because they have to go, it requires a little further design prior to getting the final approval. And there are certain things that has to go through that cannot be done until they get a preliminary plat approval. And this is typically how it goes. We typically have comments when we have a major subdivision come before
No, I'm not disagreeing with
the
you.
planning board.
I recall the last few we did, a lot of these things had already been, at least the conversations had already been had with like DOT, things of that nature.
Yeah, they have been in discussion with NCDOT, but in terms of the county's review of it, we look at it for compliance with the town of Stokesdale ordinance.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bass.
Mr. Bass, just on this overall preliminary plan down on the bottom, there's something called CA/OSS. What is CAOSS?
It's a common area, it's an open space that's gonna be maintained by the HOA, basically. It's a common area.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions for Mr. Bass? From the board? Is there anybody wishes to speak on this subdivision preliminary plat? Hearing no comments, the chair will entertain a motion for.
You have something, sir?
Oh, I was just gonna let, if somebody else is gonna speak, before we get, I was gonna let them.
Oh, okay.
But I was gonna come up to see if y'all had any questions.
As you said, my name is Ethan Creed again, 304 South Tremont, Greensboro. It's one of the, looking at the preliminary plat, it is phased into section 1 and section 2. Section 1 will initially not go over the stream. And then once it goes across the stream, that will be section 2. Other than that, we're trying to keep it under, not trying, we're definitely well under 1 dwelling unit per acre. Part of the preliminary, we can get further into the design once we have a preliminary approval, as Mr. Bass was saying, to figure out the septic, DOT. We already have plans and profiles showing the grading plan of our plans, as well as the intent to just fulfill any requirements from the county, watershed, DOT, anything like that. But more, I'm just here if y'all have any questions to answer them.
Any questions? All right.
Oh, but I also wanted to say, I know somebody had questions about 30,000 square foot lots. 30,000 square foot is a minimum in regards to septic. We deal heavily with on-site septic at our engineering firm, and we have found that typically with a water system, it's much easier to achieve on-site septic because you don't have the setbacks or offsets for individual wells. Typically, we found people have been doing 20,000 square foot lots with on-site septic, doing panel block repairs because you get 50% reductions and things like that. So, you know, we might not be able to have traditional gravel septic systems. However, there are alternatives to provide the necessary, you know, septic needs for these specific sites. It's pretty common.
Okay, thank you for that information.
All right. Thank y'all again.
Discussion again? Chair will entertain a motion to approve this preliminary plat.
I believe you want to do conditional approval according to Mr. Bass's request.
Yes, conditional approval,
I'm sorry?
based on the TRC comments.
Right. Okay. Rephrase that, a conditional approval based on the TRC comments. Thank you, Mr. Medlin.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion. In the matter of major subdivision case 22-04-STPL-02904, Oak Level Major Subdivision Plat, preliminary plat. I make a motion that we approve the conditional zoning, RS30 zoning.
Subdivision, preliminary plat, subdivision.
Yes.
I'm sorry, just that wording wasn't quite right.
Okay.
It's not up for conditional rezoning, it's just conditional approval of the preliminary plat. That would be the magic words.
Gotcha. All right. I'll redo this again. In the matter of major subdivision case 22-04-STPL-02904, Oak Level Subdivision Preliminary Plat, I make a motion that we approve this conditional zoning for RS30. Did I get that?
Conditionally approved,
Approval for the conditional zoning RS30.
No, not zoning.
No, the
Plat.
preliminary plat.
For the plat?
Yeah, not
yeah,
the
the preliminary plat, yeah,
Oh, for the preliminary plat. Okay.
for Oak Level subdivision.
For the Oak Level Subdivision preliminary plat. Did I get that right?
I believe so.
Based
Mr.
on
Threat
the
has made
TRC
a,
I'm sorry, based on the TRC comments.
Okay. And with that motion, based off the technical review comments made with Guilford County in reference to this case. I think I got that right.
can I substitute Guilford County, call it the TRC?
Guilford County TRC.
Do we need a reason? No.
All right, Mr. Threat has made a motion. Can I have a second? Second?
I'll say.
Mr. Sumner seconds. Let's take a vote. Mr. Gentry? Aye. Mr. Sumner?
Aye.
Mr. Threat?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Okay,
It's already.
we're getting to the end here.
That's why we had to go this way.
Announcements. Any decision of the planning board may be appealed to the Stokesdale Town Council within 15 days of this date by contacting the town clerk with a written notice of appeal. There is a $200 per case filing fee. The The Stokesdale Town Council meeting will be Thursday, June 9th at 7 PM. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And Mr. Green seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? You can sit here. Thank you all.
Ayes have it.
Do what?
I said the ayes have it.
That's not too bad.
Under an hour.
10 of 8.
Yeah, that's right.
So I printed off a copy of that,
That's my goal. Trying to get this thing moving along.
That's where I was getting,
Move along.
already been
Curtisville. Do you want to?
We've got things to do.
Rezone, yeah.
proving that.
Yeah, actually, it's
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Gentry, thank you for coming.
the
bet.
rezone.
It's always a good
That
thing
wasn't conditional.
to have alternative